And good evening or afternoon, everyone out there in Rando Land. We are back here on Speed Gaming 4 with another game in week 2 of the A Link to the Past Randomizer League Season 2. I am Cool Papa Bell 2282. Helping me tracking tonight, pushing all those buttons back there, is Dark Diplomat. So thanks to them for helping us out. We have the first game in this matchup of week 2 between the Cool Rush Gamers, and I've got a Tempered. And representing those two teams today are BumRushBlitz and Skeeter. In the interest of full disclosure up front, I am the cool in the Cool Rush Gamers, or at least I contributed that part of the name. I cannot on whether I'm actually cool. Well, I probably can. I know better. But so I will be rooting for BumRushBlitz, but I will do my best to give you some unbiased commentary here. This should be a good matchup between these two racers, and we should be kicking this off very soon. And just in case you have not watched any of week 2 yet, you can see at the top of your screen there we have Ambrosia is our setting for this race. Ambrosia is sort of a weird little custom mode that became popular among racers. You're going to see in just a minute that this is a standard mode seed. First off, the uncle is going to spoil the boots location for us as we start up the seed. And another weird little wrinkle is that every boss will have an item of some sort on them. Just a regular item from the item pool, not a dungeon item like a key or a map or a compass. So there is definitely added value in checking all of those bosses, and also sort of decreased value in dungeons like Skull Woods, which only has 2 items. If you cannot get to the boss, there's only 1 item available in Skull Woods there. So definitely changes up the routing just a little bit, and we will see how our runners adapt to that tonight. All right, I had a little stream hiccup there, so you will have to help me out, chat, in where we got that boots hint. But we have a hammer already in Link's house. Oh yes, of course, the other part of Ambrosia is our runners started with a sword, so that they were guaranteed a sword escape sequence, but hammer will also speed things up a little bit. Thank you very much. We have boots in pod, so runners will definitely probably prioritize pod a little bit more than you normally would. Hammer is a good sign that it will be easier to get into pod whenever we get our Dark World access. And so at the beginning of the seed, of course, our runners will just be working their way through this escape sequence. Hammer will speed things up a fair bit, doing that tempered sword damage to these guards. And both of our runners, it looks like, doing a little bit of farming, trying to get a bomb drop, since those 3 items in back of escape you would very much like to pick up on your way out. And everyone's favorite bug net. So nothing too exciting in escape after that hammer. Both of our runners are probably going to be continuing to look for those bombs on their way up through the rest of the escape sequence, but pretty much in sync with each other. Not too surprising at the very beginning of this seed. So it does not look like our runners have managed to find any bombs in the prize pack for the guards. We'll see if the rats and bats turn out any better for us. B31 did change the way those prize packs work a little bit. The short version is that if you kill a bunch of guards and they keep dropping arrows and things that are not bombs, then they're just never going to drop bombs for you. So you can pretty much give up on that. Getting more arrows from the rats as well. Oh, and a heart. So that seems to be our variety pack coming from the rats. Oh, bow already. So that bow in Dark Cross is a good sign for our runners who are already thinking about how soon they can go into pod and get those boots. And Seed being very generous early on in escape with everything except those bombs, unfortunately. Yeah, those rats are dropping a little bit of everything, which means I think there is a bomb in that rat prize pack somewhere, but it's just a question of if our runners can get it to drop or want to invest the time trying. So neither one managed to find a bomb on the way out. And of course, 3 bombs in the sanctuary. Just a little bit too late there, Seed. Thanks. And BumRushBlitz showing us our first map check there. I believe that was 3 blue crystals in the light world. Yes, blue crystals in all 3 of those light world dungeons. Looks like BumRushBlitz is also going to show us a tree pole, finding hearts there. That actually comes in pretty handy for where he was. Green rupees out of the bush crab, and we're now going to see what the lumberjack ledge has. I did not see what that was. I am reliably informed by our tracker that that was bombs on the lumberjack ledge. Yep, Skeeter confirming that for us. 20 rupees in the Lost Woods. And another 20 inside the hideout. So our runners are decently prepared for Kakariko. They've got a little bit of cash. The rupees they'll find in Blind's Hut will be enough to pay off the bottle vendor. And they will be able to open up all of these bombable walls and clear out everything we want from the village. So there's our second sword already. Would normally make you a little bit nervous about Aga, but when you've started out with Hammer, you sort of think you'll probably get traditional Dark World access before having to do Aghanim 1. And a mushroom, so an early fetch quest. 5 more items in the well, starting off with blue mail. Seed hasn't given us any health yet, so the armor is definitely worth it. All right, there's our Moon Pearl. 2/3 of the way to Dark World access. The optimists among you will say all we need is a glove. The pessimists among you will say all we need is a lamp for Aghanim access. Or I guess it's Twitch chat, so maybe the optimistic one is Aghanim and the pessimistic one is normal Dark World access. So I believe that was a $20 rebate from the bottle vendor. Not a great deal there. Convenient that our runners are going to find 3 more bombs in the chicken hut as soon as they use up their last ones that came out of the sanctuary. And that looked like a big 20 in the library. So Kakariko has given us that Moon Pearl and another fetch quest. And I would guess we'll be heading to South Shore next. So our runners might be thinking about fake flippering in this situation. They will be able to get into Waterfall Cave if they do that fake flipper. Downside is they are nowhere near having the Zora rupees, so without some very lucrative mini Moldorm Cave chests, they would be isolating that particular location. And more bombs. After having none of them in Escape, the Seed's just going to give them bombs everywhere from here on out. That's the other reason why our runners are really hoping to find that glove to get back to the back of Escape at this point, which is totally in logic. You would need to either find a glove or walk all the way back through Escape, which neither of our runners wants to do. There it is. All right, so glove in Mini Moldorm Cave. Both of our runners will have Dark World access about 12 minutes in, and we will see what they decide to do with that information. There is still stuff you could do profitably in the Light World. Certainly with that early bow, you might be tempted to do early Eastern Palace. A little bit out of logic with without the lamp, since the game will never expect you to do those dark rooms. You might also want to put off Eastern, knowing that you're going to go to Pod as soon as possible and hopefully find the mirror in order to combo those together. But of course, the 3 items in Sahasrah's closet are also very tempting at this point. So BumRushBlitz just going to finish off this part of the world. Looks like Skeeter is following suit. Then we'll both pick up the item out of Ice Rod Cave. And just a big 20 there. And yet BumRushBlitz is immediately saving and quitting after finishing that off. So opting against the fake flipper. It's going to wait until those checks are in logic. Or again, possibly thinking about comboing with the catfish check if we find the mirror anytime soon. And it's headed straight toward the back of Escape now with that newly found glove. So I would not be surprised to see both of our runners doing this right away, sort of breathing a sigh of relief that they can still check this, because you're always afraid that your opponent somehow managed to find a bomb and escape and found something great here when you didn't. Ooh, okay, so 2 troll packs of bombs from the seed, thanks. But then the hook shot is a really good find. So you probably don't feel too bad about finding that a little bit later. It's only a minute of extra time that you spent going back to check for that one and finding the hook shot. You probably couldn't really have used it before now. Meanwhile, though, Skeeter is opting into that fake flipper check. So we will see if he finds anything exciting here out of logic. As BumRushBlitz is headed toward the eastern area, at least. Gonna check out Sahasrara's closet, and we'll probably finish Eastern while he's here. Once you make the walk over here, that makes sense to me. Green Pendant Misery Mire. That is going to make Mire unappealing check. Whoa, silvers in Sahasrara's closet as well. Wow, this seed really wanted you to have a bow, with the first one in Dark Cross in standard mode and the second one in Sphere 0 with Sahasrara. Skeeter just found a heart piece on the hobo. But yeah, Misery Mire, essentially you have 2 items in that entire dungeon plus an extra item after Vitreous. And so that is a big commitment to get to those 2 items that are essentially lurking on Vitreous, since we know he will have 1 item of some sort in Ambrosia mode. Ooh, good reward for Skeeter there too, finding the fire rod in that sequence broken waterfall cave. That is a really good one to have your first trip into the Dark World as well, since you can very often clear a crystal in Skull Woods right away. That's a really good find early on. And now we will see Skeeter pick up his hook shot in the back of Escape. There's also an outside chance our runners are thinking about sequence breaking Death Mountain at this point also. Again, out of logic without the lamp, but is an option with that hook shot. There's a lot of things to be found up there. Wow, Tempered Sword in Eastern Palace. As Skeeter looks like he is opting for entering the Dark World for the first time at the Hype Cave portal, showing us that full map check. We also see pendants in Swamp Palace and Skull Woods, in addition to that green pendant in Misery Mire that we knew about before. And I saw a red crystal at Palace of Darkness. I'm not sure where the other one was. So a question in the chat, the boot hint was Palace of Darkness, which reminds me, our runners will not be going to Death Mountain when they can now full clear Palace of Darkness, get those boots out of there. That's going to happen real soon. I would not be surprised to see Skeeter go there right now after Hype Cave. Ooh, the flute in Hype Cave. Also a very nice find, and that does now give us our logical Death Mountain access. Oh, unlucky. BumRushBlitz took a death there in Eastern Palace. The big key was in its vanilla location. So he did have to go around there and unfortunately took a death trying to get to that switch under the anti-fairies there. So it looks like he's going to head back in, is committed to finishing off Eastern Palace right now, but having to walk around through those dark rooms again is a little bit annoying. Upside is that he does have the key from the right side of Eastern already. And yes, Skeeter is headed right toward Palace of Darkness at this point. This dark room will be a bit shorter since BumRushBlitz does not have to go to the room on the right. That does mean he'll have to walk past these anti-fairies directly and take a little bit of damage there. Once again, having trouble with that anti-fairy skip, so we'll have to actually kill all the enemies in this room to get them to move. And we'll be going back toward the dark room in the back of Pod with just one heart. He might think about jumping down and grabbing the fairy by falling down through those pots right there. He is keeping good track of his items, knows that the last item in Eastern Palace will be on the boss, so skipping the big chest. And meanwhile, Skeeter is heading through the right side of Palace of Darkness. Slight disadvantage of not having those silver arrows just yet, but that will not slow him down very much. And Pod, living up to its reputation, those first 3 chests that we opened had keys in them. And Skeeter takes that Death Wart back to the front of Pod as BumRushBlitz is going to head into this very quick Silver Arrows Armos fight. And we'll retrieve our first Crystal of the Seed. And there are the boots in the Vanilla Big Key location. And it looks like BumRushBlitz is just doing this Pod Eastern combo in the opposite order you usually do. So heading right out of Eastern down toward the portal around the Flute 5 spot, and we'll head up to Pod right away. Meanwhile, Skeeter is through all of those pesky keys at the front of the dungeon, is now getting to the good stuff in the back. And yes, our second 5/6 crystal is in Ice Palace. So both of our runners probably happy to see that red crystal on Palace of Darkness. Since you can full clear it right away, you hate to see that turn out to be a pendant, but that happens so often. Here's the other advantage that Skeeter is going to have in this Palace of Darkness clear. He has that Fire Rod. That's not going to come in or not going to be so important here in Dark Maze, although it's definitely being a little bit tricky today. Those, what are they called? I forget what they're called. The fire-breathing guys, you know what they're called, are not being very nice to Skeeter at this point. Ooh, and he takes a death there. He's still got 2 items left in that Dark Maze to get. One at the bottom and one in the big chest. The bigger thing, though, is if they decide to go all the way to Helmasaur right now, that Dark Turtle room is a pain in the butt. So Skeeter having the fire rod will be able to light the torches in there, which of course makes that room trivial. So that will definitely be a big advantage helping Skeeter out there. We'll see if BumRushBlitz decides to go all the way down to Helmasaur or not. And all right, from the looks of things, Skeeter is going to head down to Helmasaur right now, and then make the decision about whether to go back for those items in the back of Pod. We will see if BumRushBlitz gets there to see what Skeeter is leaving behind. So we're seeing the same routing out of BumRushBlitz. This is fairly standard. Oh, no, he is not going to take the Death Warp. He is instead going to just hammer down those pegs and then walk across to the arena room. And there we see Skeeter's Fire Rod coming in very handy in that Dark Turtle room. So it looks like BumRushBlitz is taking a bit of a gamble, hoping that the vanilla big key chest will turn out to be just a key for a key. Unfortunately, that is where the boots are, so he'll be doing the back of the dungeon without those, but we'll be able to grab them in just a minute. I assume he will Death Warp out of the back. And Skeeter, meanwhile, is at Helmasaur. Gets those 17 hammer hits in, and is switching to the bow. Ooh, this is a tough second phase on the equipment that they currently have. Blue mail, but just 4 hearts. Ooh, that tail. Oh my goodness. Couple of close calls there from Skeeter. Oh, just misses those sword slashes. I do not know how he is dodging those tail whips. Whew. By the skin of his teeth, Skeeter gets through that fight. Very nicely done to clutch that one out. So Skeeter collects his first crystal, gets even in the count. I just remembered what those green fire-breathy guys are called. They're called Kadongos. And looks like BumRushBlitz also having some minor issues there, taking some damage from those guys. All right, looks like BumRushBlitz is at the bottom of that dark maze. I think that was just the map in that chest. I'm not sure. I did not see anything new on his inventory screen. Ooh, and Bombos in the big chest. So Skeeter is leaving that one behind. It's not guaranteed to be an issue. That's definitely going to be a little bit scary for Skeeter as the seed goes on, though. Upside is he does have the Fire Rod already, so no worries about Bombos being our Ice Palace access. So he's got no worries there. But if that turns out to be the entrance to either Misery Mire or Turtle Rock, which are both crystal dungeons today, that's going to be very difficult for Skeeter to get back to. And there, BumRushBlitz having to use up some bombs to get that Death Warp to happen, because unfortunately played the Dark Maze very safe, which I think is the correct call, and then there were no enemies left in that room to finish him off to complete that Death Warp. So did have to take matters into his own hands, and is now going to find his boots at the big key chest. Oh, sorry, I missaw that. I saw the little star thing next to Misery Mire, and for some reason thought that was a crystal symbol. So yes, Turtle Rock is the only one that Skeeter will necessarily have to enter. So he might get away without that bombos, depending on how the rest of the seed goes. Finding just 50 rupees on Catfish, and we'll save and quit from there. And I would suspect we'll start another Dark World trip over at the Village of Outcast portal and activate his flute along the way. And this is going to be a big moment of truth for BumRushBlitz. Again, that Dark Turtle room is very scary. And if you sort of don't get your strat right away, it's really easy to lose track of where those turtles are. So we will hold our breath when he gets there and see how he does executing that room. Skeeter also checking out Bonk Rocks on the way back to Kakariko. We might also see a quick mushroom check if Skeeter is in the mood to do that right now, since we picked that up pretty early, and that will now be a very quick trip now that we have that flute. So now is the scary room for BumRushBlitz. He's into that second turtle room. Looks like 2 of the turtles are down. Oh, very nice. He got all the turtles down with those first 2 hammer hits, I believe. Because I saw bombos activate on 4 of them. I think they might all be dead, but I'm not sure, actually. Oh, no, looks like 1 left alive. I somehow miscounted there, but... And BumRushBlitz just did get through that door, so gets through the hardest part of this dark dungeon trip. Getting through that dark turtle room. There are 4 more turtles in the room to Helmasaur, which normally are not too much of a concern, but on the health that they have, fortunately only taking half a heart damage per hit with that blue mail. So Skeeter, meanwhile, has gone up to Death Mountain, which is now in Logic. Is definitely gonna look at Paradox Cave. As BumRushBlitz, also a little tense moment there with those fireballs, but gets a silver arrow into Helma's eye and takes him down for his second crystal. And unfortunate death there, Skeeter getting dead rocked after getting assaulted by some cabbages earlier in his Death Mountain trip, but will be a pretty easy restart there at the Old Man Cave to resume his checks of the mountain. And now we will see what BumRushBlitz's plan is. So starting at the Sanctuary, so it'll be a little bit before he finds that flute, but a fair bit to do in the village. Of course, with Thieves Town being a full clearable crystal, that's probably looking pretty appealing right now also. Will not be able to dip into Skull Woods, but sort of dodges a little bit of a bullet there with that being a pendant. That will not necessarily hurt him too much, unless there's some sort of required progression there. And Paradox Cave having some health, but not much more for Skeeter. Another fetch quest in that shovel, but we do still have Spiral Cave to check out, and Skeeter's also got access with that hammer to Tower of Hera, which is another crystal, so you never complain about getting those done. So we see another heart container there on the floating island. And it looks like BumRushBlitz is going to dip into Skull Woods here and try and find that one item in the front. You always get nervous about something like, what if that one item in the front is the fire rod or something like that and you leave it behind? But I think he is probably thinking, let's just clear out everything in this part of the world and hope we never have to come back. Skeeter finds the small key in Hera, which puts the basement as a possibility. He's going to go ahead and climb, though, of course, and put off that basement until last, since no one likes doing that check. Wow, I was just about to make a joke about how I think people like Ambrosia because it means you don't have to do Hera Basement as much, but here we are. We got one item on Moldorm and one item in the basement. I mean, most importantly, a crystal, I guess, but... Dark Diplomat is yelling at me in chat that I had to go and think about it. I did not know that mental commentator curses were a thing, but I will do my best to only use this power for good instead of evil, chat. And Skeeter gets through that Moldorm fight, picking up his second crystal and the red boomerang. And it looks like BumRushBlitz forgot about Ambrosia for a second and full cleared Skull Woods, even though there was not an item left in there. I think he found one on the... Oh, no! I know what happened. There's both items are just in the back of Skull Woods. They're both going to be fire rod locked. I forgot there's two chests back there. I was just thinking about the one guaranteed one on Mothula. So that will definitely be a faster trip for Skeeter if he decides to go there and decides to just go straight to the back. BumRushBlitz finds another medallion, Quake in the Brewery. and is probably really wanting to find some health before dipping into Thieves Town on 4 hearts still. 40 minutes into the seed, and just 4 hearts is a little rough. At least that blue mail is available. And by available, I mean he's wearing it right now. Here's my insider teammate knowledge. I also have faith in BumRushBlitz's ability to do this Thieves Town, because he did it on 5 hearts green mail in a spoiler pilot seed we were practicing the other day. So he is definitely capable of doing this, especially with Tempered Sword. You can just clear out enemies so quickly with that. So he should be okay here. Meanwhile, Skeeter is going to round out the Death Mountain trip with Spiral Cave. Our first bottle over on BumRushBlitz's side with a red potion in it as well. Wow, Mitts in Spiral Cave. That is a convenient place to find that, especially when you have the hook shot already, because that means Skeeter can just jump right back into the Dark World and check out Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny, and just full clear the mountain on his one trip up there. So very convenient for the routing. Ooh, nice little spin from BumRushBlitz there, taking out all 3 of those caterpillars. Oh my goodness, that is Bombos on Turtle Rock. Oh, that's so painful for Skeeter. If anybody has just joined us here, Skeeter took an unfortunate death in the pod Dark Maze during his trip into that dungeon and left behind the Bombos medallion in the pod big chest. That is going to be a really hard location for him to get back to later in this race, and he's going to need that Bombos medallion to get into Turtle Rock. That is just really unfortunate. Ooh, and BumRushBlitz finds the Ice Rod in Thieves Town. And looks like the small key is locking itself. So our last item will be on blind. And BumRushBlitz, again, navigating Thieves Town very nicely. Was down to 1 heart very briefly, but is back up to full for this blind fight. And it looks like, yes, Skeeter is going to head into Skull Woods as well. This does make sense when you're coming in here with Fire Rod. It's a lot more tempting knowing you can pick up both items back here, especially since Skeeter Sequence broke that Fire Rod and knows they have it a little bit earlier, probably than their opponent does. You really hope to find more stuff behind it and kind of press that advantage. So I do not blame him at all for heading right into Skull Woods here. Gets a nice magic drop and decides to just Fire Rod those Gibdos out of the way. And BumRushBlitz executing the blind fight very nicely, right on script through there, and picks up his 3rd crystal. And yes, looks like Skeeter is going to head straight to the back, so we'll find those 2 items in the back of Skull Woods pretty quickly, assuming he heads to Mothula as well. Meanwhile, BumRushBlitz picking up the flippers on the digging game. That is a very nice find, since we know the Fire Rod is in Waterfall Cave. BumRushBlitz will also be finding his flute in Hype Cave here in just a second, and now with 2 bottles, we'll be interested in heading back to Kakariko, activating that flute, and checking out Sick Kid for us. And we will see how soon he decides to make those flipper checks. The only thing that opens up for him right now without either the mirror or mitts is those things up in Zora's domain. No worries about dipping into Swamp or Ice Palace just yet. BumRushBlitz finally getting up to his 5th heart as Skeeter drops into the Mothula fight. Uses up the last of his magic there. Is also only on Master Sword. BumRushBlitz found his tempered in Eastern Palace. Skeeter got into a nice rhythm there and got 3 or 4 hits in right in a row, and takes down the Moth. So BumRushBlitz opted to go ahead and finish out the full Dark World loop. After doing Hype Cave, we're going to see Pyramid and Catfish. These are slow checks to make, but it's one of those instances where you know you're never going to be closer to these checks again, so this is the least bad time to do it, and also gets those 50 bucks out of the Catfish there. So our runners retracing each other's steps just a little bit. Not surprising that BumRushBlitz is activating that flute right away, and we will likely see him on Death Mountain as well, since that is the most lucrative location put into logic by that flute. And Skeeter is finishing out what he has not done in the Village of Outcasts at this point. So thinking ahead, BumRushBlitz showing us the Sick Kid check. Just 20 bucks. Thinking ahead for Skeeter, I think here's what needs to happen to give him the best chance to win this race. He needs to find that mirror. Because if he finds that mirror and he's thinking about that pod big chest, he might decide to head back to that part of the world and dip back into pod and then mirror to Eastern Palace. So that's actually an upside, given his unfortunate occurrence in Palace of Darkness. The fact that he has not done Eastern yet means he might pair those together and get that Bombos out of the Palace of Darkness big chest just a little bit later on in the seed, if he can find that mirror. And of course, we are not guaranteed to find that mirror because Swamp Palace is a pendant, so we're not guaranteed to necessarily have to go in there today, or at least not before going into Ganon's Tower. So Skeeter also making his way through Thieves Town. And I would expect we'll see a very similar loop around Death Mountain from BumRushBlitz as well. With Hera being that crystal, it's sort of most efficient to work your way up through Paradox Cave, as we saw Skeeter do, and then come down to Spiral Cave after finishing off the Tower of Hera. So we saw both of our runners there get into a smidge of trouble in the middle of Thieves Town, but played that room with Blind Cell very carefully, picked up some hearts there, and got themselves in really good shape for this blind fight. As BumRushBlitz is happy to finally find some health up there in Paradox Cave. Looks like Skeeter got just off script in that first phase of the blind fight, but is using that fire shield to good effect to block those fireballs, and gets through that pretty easily. So crystal number 3 on Skeeter's side, which ties him up with BumRushBlitz at the moment, but BumRush is headed into Hera for crystal number 4. Does not have a fire source, so he's going to have to leave behind that item in the basement. It's not a big concern for him because it was just junk down there, I believe, but that is going to be an annoying thing to have in the back of your head and sort of worrying you for the rest of the seed. And looks like BumRushBlitz is going to show us the Hera pot glitch. You set a bomb in just the right location and line yourself up right here. Looks like BumRush was looking for 1 pixel. Just missed it there. When you line it up just right, the bomb will clip you just 1 pixel into that pot over there, and then you can hookshot yourself the rest of the way in. There we go. It's a little bit precise. Well, it's pretty precise in the where you have to be standing, and a little bit precise afterwards. You can definitely soft lock yourself inside that pot if you don't move just right. Meanwhile, Skeeter is showing us some routing efficiency on his side for having mitts before he got to Village of Outcasts. He got into check hammer pegs, found the red mail there, and now has the option of seeing the Smith's chain if he wants to. Of course, he's going to do the digging game here first and find his flippers. That might point him toward Ice Palace, since he has had the fire rod for quite a while. Shoutouts to One Dig Flippers, by the way, at the dig game. And BumRushBlitz breezing through that Moldorm fight with the Tempered Sword. And yeah, looks like Skeeter is going to go ahead and pick up the Blacksmith Jeremiah here. A little bit annoying to return him home without the mirror, but with the flute, that'll get him back to Kakariko very quickly after a save and quit. I gotta say, so far this has been a pretty linear seed for these runners. I mean, the only real decision point that the runners had was whether or not to do that early Eastern Palace. Because, you know, you got hammer and bow, and then your dark world access really quickly in just sort of the natural light world checks. You sort of made your dark world loop, and then that got you the flute, which gets you to Death Mountain. You clear out Death Mountain, and that's pretty much where our runners are right now. So not a lot of big decision points. BumRushBlitz is ahead on that sword counter and the crystal counter because of his early dip into Eastern Palace. And it looks like he is not going to do Dark Death Mountain. I'm not sure. My stream sort of blinked there for a second. I don't know if he was trying to dodge the bird after firing off the flute and then just didn't quite manage to do it, or if he is wanting to finish off these flippers checks. Yeah, so he is interested in checking out what the flippers unlock. You have to think that when he finds that fire rod in the waterfall fairy here in just a second, that's going to point him towards Ice Palace since he is already thinking about flipper checks. He does not have the cash for Zora still at this point in the seed. I think Skeeter found a 300 on Dark Death Mountain somewhere, so... it's a good time to take stock of what we need for Dark World access, as Skeeter now is going to catch up on that Eastern Palace crystal and pick up his silvers from Sahasrarla's closet on the way. So for go mode, we are still looking for the red cane. Logical go mode, we still want to find that lamp somewhere. Who knows where that is? And then we're going to need some sort of access into Desert Palace, either by way of the boots, the book or the mirror. I got distracted there because BumRushBlitz actually not checking out Waterfall Fairy first, is just headed straight into Ice Palace with Bombos. So it does have a blue potion there in the inventory, so is prepared to restock his magic if needed. So it looks like he has fallen into the line of thinking that Fire Rod or Bombos, one of them always locks the other one. It's only a meme, but it's a meme that holds true probably more often than most runners would like. So BumRushBlitz just working his way down through Ice Palace as Skeeter is headed through Eastern. Looks like he got the Ice Palace bomb jump on the first try there. And if Skeeter had any worries about his Ganon fight, those are probably gone now. He's found red mail, silvers, and tempered in the last 5 or 6 minutes. So definitely going to be on easy mode weapon-wise for the rest of the seed. As BumRush is heading through the hookshot room to get to the right side of Ice Palace. This is the upside Skeeter gets for coming to Eastern Palace later, is he gets to dash through all of those long corridors. There is some cash for BumRushBlitz, so this is paying off for him in that sense that now when he finally makes it up to the Zora's Domain area, he will be able to pay everyone's favorite scammer fish. And there's 2 items from BumRushBlitz in Ice Palace, a Heart Piece and the 300 rupees, so he can now just head straight down to Cold Stare. Meanwhile, we saw Skeeter taking good advantage of that fire rod that he's found, lighting up those dark rooms whenever possible. Because why make things hard on yourself if you don't have to? So we're going to see some near simultaneous boss fights. Skeeter's going to be have the easier one to deal with, the Armos Silvers fight. As BumRush drops into the Cold Stare fight, and we'll open up that shell with the Bombos. Skeeter is done with his fight already, picks up crystal number 4 in Eastern Palace. And pretty nice fight from BumRushBlitz there. Got 4 slashes in on those puffs in the corner after that initial spin, and then manages to finish them off without too much trouble. So that will be crystal number 5 on BumRush's side. And yeah, we are still looking now for what our next logical access to somewhere is. I'm trying to think of what we got. We have King's Tomb that we have not checked yet. Our runners have both picked up mitts fairly recently. With those mitts, we can also get into the mire area, and that means mire itself is a possibility. And BumRushBlitz, it looks like, is thinking about the Pyramid Fairy as well, having just completed that second red crystal in Ice Palace. But is leaving behind those Light World flipper checks at this point. So is still missing that fire rod. So that's definitely a small point of concern for BumRush. We will see how soon he gets back to those Zora's Domain checks. It is worth pointing out, though, that now Skeeter has been through Eastern Palace, and without that mirror, he is never going to be in the Palace of Darkness part of the world ever again until he decides he needs to go back and check that Palace of Darkness big chest. Oh, I see BumRushBlitz actually just short of Zora money, so that might be why he is putting those checks off. There's another 300. And Ether, probably not what you want to see, because that means when you go to the mire area, you will be able to go into that pendant dungeon. No worries about completing it just yet until we find that red cane. But BRB is probably concerned about that fire rod more than anything right now. Looks like he's headed over to King's Tomb. This is the point in the seed where BumRush probably doesn't want to find the mirror, because that just tells you you should go to Swamp Palace. pulling out the flute, we will see where he is headed next. Back to 8, so this looks like a Waterfall Fairy and Zora check. That is true. Dark Diplomat, our tracker, pointed out in chat that Mirror Wood is one possible desert access. I think you'd just rather have the book, though, and not have to think about Swamp, but there's a decent chance we're going to find that mirror sooner or later. So we will see what King Zora has for us today. Just 10 arrows. So Skeeter not missing out on anything up here since he came very early. Sequence breaking before he had the flippers, but did not get to check Zora since he didn't have the cash at the time. And now BRB is another save and quit, picking up the flute again, and it looks like the mire area is about his only option at this point. Oh, I guess we still have a Gina's Cave floating that neither of our runners has checked, so we're going to see that. Skeeter also routing through Ice Palace very efficiently, checking the right side first, finding those 2 items, and knowing Cold Stare is all we have left. Just a heart piece for BumRushBlitz. It's another relieving one to find junk in a Gina's Cave at this point in the seed, because it makes sense to have not checked it at this point. It's a sort of a one-off location, at least until you get mitts. I guess it's sort of a one-off location anyway, since you normally have to re-flute again after you check it. But you never know if your opponent might have taken a flyer on it early on, and if they found something great there, they might be way ahead of you, unfortunately. But just a heart piece, so no concerns there. Skeeter very similarly gets a nice spin into the corner, 1 puff down. There's 2, and there's 3. There is finally the lamp. So the seed was expecting you to come this far into things before doing any of these dark rooms that our runners have done. And BumRushBlitz saved and quit out of the mire area. Looks like he is headed toward the Hera basement, which we know is junk because Skeeter has checked that before, and he's probably thinking about the Dark Death Mountain stuff that he left behind before. Actually, he might just be thinking Dark Death Mountain and not Hera basement just yet, now that I think about it. Meanwhile, Skeeter is giving us the shovel check. And just a heart container there. Okay, BumRushBlitz is not going to do Hera Basement right now because he has no way to get back to the Light World after he enters here at the Turtle Rock portal, but he wants to see what this is. Well, I guess it doesn't make a difference what it is since he has all 3 medallions, but wants to go ahead and get this portal opened. But BumRushBlitz did not decide to go ahead and dip into Mire, which was definitely an option. And I think that might be where our progression is. Again, this is the effect of the Ambrosia settings. Only one item in Mire is available without the Cane of Samaria. So BumRush is probably not excited about dipping into Mire for a guaranteed only one item unless it happens to be Cane. We will see how Skeeter reacts when faced with that same choice. And this is interesting. Quake is the only medallion that Skeeter has found so far. So when he sees that Quake there, he might take that as a sign that Mire is the way to go. And looks like he is, since he is running out of the Mire shed right now. So save and quit from BumRushBlitz. He has the entire Smith's chain to do, so I would not be surprised to see him heading that way. He has a bunch of one-offs checks, and then Smiths, hammer, pegs, everything in that purple chest, everything in that line to do. So yep, he is headed right toward the Dark World portal in Skull Woods. He might also be thinking about finishing off Skull Woods right now. And we will see what Skeeter finds in the one item here in the front of Misery Mire. So once again, BumRush headed straight toward the back. He has cleared out the front of Skull Woods already, so he knows everything interesting is back in the third part of the dungeon. Oh, there is the mirror for Skeeter in Misery Mire. So that opens up Desert Palace access immediately. And he will head straight into his 6th crystal dungeon. And there is Mothula down for BumRushBlitz. Skeeter finds the first item in the front of Desert, just a heart piece. So similar to Mire, now knows the last item is on the boss, so is just looking for the big key at this point, which will be on the right side, based on the key layout. So yeah, question in chat about where Bombos was. Bombos was on the Palace of Darkness big chest. Both of our runners went there early on with no lamp and only 4 hearts. And Skeeter got unlucky and took a death in the Dark Maze on his way to that Bombos. So he does not have the way into Turtle Rock. Oh! Hold on. BumRushBlitz finding the Cane of Samaria in Skull Woods. Did Skeeter skip that check before? I admit I was not paying super close attention when he came out of Mothula. This is fascinating. Both of our runners making really good finds here. Skeeter getting his mirror and access to Desert Palace. BumRushBlitz finding the cane, which will give him access to Turtle Rock. But this could lead both of them astray from where they need to go. BumRushBlitz needs to go back to might need to go back to Meyer to find that mirror to get his Desert Palace access. And this mirror might lead Skeeter to full clear Swamp Palace, looking for that Bombos medallion that he is missing. I think all told, this works out better for BumRush because even a go mode Turtle Rock is not that much faster than a full clear. And if he finds that book up here, that will also give him access to Desert Palace. Downside is BumRushBlitz is guaranteeing himself another climb of the mountain, which is just sort of sunk time that he will not be able to do anything about at this point. But is diving into Turtle Rock right now. And Skeeter plunks some silver arrows into the Landmo heads, finding just a heart piece, but his 6th crystal on the Desert Palace boss. And yeah, question in chat about the routing. I think if no matter what BumRushBlitz finds in Turtle Rock, he is finishing it on this trip. You're already committed to coming in even a little ways. You would have to be retracing your steps, even if it would only be like a minute or so at this point. You don't want to retrace those steps any more than you have to. So I think he is definitely finishing Turtle Rock at this point. Ooh, has a close call with that spiked roller there. Worth noting, he has not been to the Smith's chain yet, and that red mail was on hammer pegs. Gets through the Chain Chomp room nicely there. I think there are harder rooms in the game than Chain Chomps, but I'm not sure there is a room in this game where I have died more often than the Chain Chomp room. So Skeeter looks like is going to wrap up the mirror checks. We've got Graveyard Ledge and K45s that we have not seen yet. As BumRush trades a key for a key in the lava chest. BumRush does not have access to Mimic Cave, but will probably be going the long way around to check the big chest in Turtle Rock. So BumRush just has Laser Bridge and Trinex left to look for that book. As we know, since the mirror is in Desert Palace, or sorry, is in Mire, the book is the only thing that can help him at this point. And Skeeter is headed to Purple Chest, which he skipped before, again without the mirror. Just did not route in very nicely for him. That blue cane is a nice find to get right there on Laser Bridge. BumRush will use that for the invincibility now. The cape also. Oh my goodness. V31 logic at its finest, everyone. Both invincibility items on Laser Bridge. I believe in advanced item placement logic, there is zero requirement for Laser Bridge now. Laser skips are just sort of assumed. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's correct. Now BumRush is headed into the Trinex fight. Picks up that full magic there, and does have a blue potion in reserve should he need it. Phases 1 and 2 are down. Just the third head left to deal with. And yes, this looks like Skeeter is... Oh, is thinking about that Pyramid Fairy right now. And then probably is going to route in Swamp Palace just after that while he is in the area. And with that Trinex kill, BumRushBlitz has finished his 6th crystal. Just needs Desert Palace still. But since that his logical access to Desert Palace is locked away inside of Mire, I would expect we will see him doing the Smith's chain first. He just has far more checks in that chain. Those are a lot more appealing than that single check in Mire. Ooh, or is he... okay, so with those invincibility items... okay, this is good thinking from BumRush. With those invincibility items, Spike Cave is now actually in logic, so he is going to go ahead and grab that while he's here. And yep, Skeeter is headed back through the portal right around Swamp. And this is exactly what we were afraid of. It looks like he is being led astray by that mirror. And Swamp Palace is a very appealing option for him at this point. I think he's got a full Swamp Palace clear ahead of him that BumRushBlitz will not even be thinking about, because once he finds his mirror, he will be in go mode. So both of our runners are going to come dangerously close to full clearing this seed. They are down to checking some one-offs for the most part in looking for progression here. So it looks like BumRush is routing this, just hoping that every check that he does will be the last one that he needs to do. If you were sort of planning on doing this chain all the way through to purple chest, I think you would do hammer pegs when you come back to pick up that purple chest, but he's just hoping that, say, hammer pegs will have the item that he needs. The red mail is not quite what he's looking for. BumRushBlitz still has that shovel floating around also. I believe that was just a heart container. Skeeter finding a fairy in a bottle in Swamp Palace. And Skeeter making the usual decision, heading straight toward the back here, hoping that the items that you need are all in the back and you won't actually have to do the left side of Swamp. We see the awkward routing BumRush is sort of forced into when doing Smith's Chain with no mirror. You gotta sort of run back and forth here and go through this portal in Skull Woods about 3 times to get everything done. One more save and quit from BumRush, and then he will be able to turn in the purple chest with a quick flute to that area. And Skeeter is finishing off Argus. Has the silver arrows out. Nicely sniped there. Skeeter is headed back in for the left side of Swamp. It's the point in the seed where you just have to be clearing everything, so there's really no other decision for him to make, unfortunately. But this is just going to be more sunk time as BumRush is fluting to the mire area and is headed into this one item check in mire. Another hazard that BumRush has to worry about. In this situation, you might normally think about going to Vitreous right away. You know he essentially has 2 items, and the front of the dungeon only has 1 item in it. Fortunately for BumRush, the mirror is not in the vanilla big key location, because you might very well run all the way to Vitreous before checking that one. I forget if Skeeter found the big key here before or not. But we will see how BumRush chooses to route this. Pulls out that blue cane, trying to conserve health. And this is the first sort of decision point when you are routing your way through Mire. We will see what BRB decides to do. So he is headed left, might just be picking up this fire-locked chest in the room above him. And yeah, BumRush has decided to go all the way through to the left side, is going to do the cutscene chest first. Unfortunately, walking right past that location of the mirror. And Skeeter now, yeah, is in full desperation one-off check mode, is running back up towards Zora to get the junk that is unfortunately there for him. That bombos in the pod big chest was just a really unlucky thing, and it just bit Skeeter in the worst possible way. All right, BumRush is now headed back through the main area of Mire, and looks like he's headed over to hit that switch, which will open up the mirror chest for him. And there it is, officially at 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 53 seconds, I think. BumRushBlitz is in go mode. We'll just have to head into Desert Palace and finish off this dungeon relatively quickly for his 7th crystal, and then can head straight up toward Ganon after that. So upside for Skeeter is it looks like he has realized that he is still missing an item out of Skull Woods. This is going to be really frustrating for him, though, if he comes back and finds this cane here after all of this time. And meanwhile, BumRush has found the big key on the right side of Desert Palace and is making his way back toward Land Molus. Skeeter is finishing out Skull Woods. Wow, I did not know you could hookshot through that spike. That's pretty cool. And yeah, Skeeter is now headed toward the back of the Skull Woods again. So he knows that there's one chest back here that he's been missing that he did not check before. I'm not sure if that was a brain fart or just a choice that he was making, that he wanted to finish off Mothula and nothing else. But this is another very unlucky item location for Skeeter that has prevented him from getting his Cane of Samaria up until now. But meanwhile, though, BumRushBlitz has finished off his 7th crystal, and Dark Diplomat has started the GT Big Key guessing game for us. As always, there are 22 locations in the Ganon's Tower basement where that GT Big Key might be, and whoever guesses right will win a fabulous prize of some meaningless internet points, which we all know is the best prize you can possibly ever win. My guess of 1 has nothing to do with the fact that my teammate is in go mode and I want to see Ganon's Tower go as quickly as possible. I don't know what you're talking about. So Skeeter is now taking that Cane of Samaria into Misery Mire. There are 2 items here, essentially, since, well, 3 items, actually. Since he has finished off the other pendant dungeons, he will get the item on Vitreous, the green pendant item, and also the pedestal item. Again, we sometimes say this, and I don't want to project onto the runners too much, but there's a certain point where you just think about that check that you had to leave behind, like the Pod Big Chest and Skeeter had to this game, that you just sort of think that's a lost cause, and if that's the answer to all your problems, then you're in big trouble. And if Skeeter is thinking that, he's sort of 100% right, because that just was profoundly unlucky that he took that death in Dark Maze early on. Skeeter has found his big key in Misery Mire and is headed down to Vitreous directly. BumRushBlitz heading to the right side first. Big 20 and a small key on the right. That means BumRush can keep going right if he wants to, which he does. So Bombos, for anyone who came in late, is in the Pod Big Chest. Both of our runners were in there with 4 hearts and green mail very early on in the seed, and Skeeter took a death on Dark Maze trying to work his way there. Ooh, BumRush having some issues in this torch room in GT. I'm not sure if he will have enough time to get through the door. Just does manage to dash through. So, locations 3 through 6 coming up. 4 is 10 arrows. Number 5, those rupees. Number 6, a heart container. Number 7, another heart container on the torch, which BumRush will stop to grab. I believe he does still have... Oh, no, looks like he used the blue potion. I think that might have been in the middle of Turtle Rock. I'm not sure. And a quick Vitreous fight from Skeeter. Those silver arrows making short work of the eyeballs. And 8, 9, 10, and 11, just some more small keys, but no big key as of yet. There is that book we were talking about as alternate Desert Palace access, so that Mire Dip was hard required to give us access into Desert Palace. And Skeeter is going to go turn in that green pendant next. And as we know, that is not the answer. Check number 13 for BumRushBlitz. Another heart. We see where Ganon was hiding all the heart containers this seed. And Pedestal is next. Just feels bad for Skeeter, knowing that he's making all the plays that he sort of has to make in this situation, but just knowing that they're not going to work out. $14, $15, $16, and $17, also not the answer. So we've got Bob's Chest, Ice Armos, and the Tile Room left. And there it is. Number 18 is the winner. Looks like Austrian Crow came in with the correct answer on that one. Wins 13 points on the Speed Gaming 4 GT Big Key Guessing Game leaderboard. Nicely done. Yeah, I'm not sure what is happening with Skeeter's stream there, unfortunately. BumRushBlitz has gone back to the start of Ganon's Tower and is starting this gauntlet climb. Gets through Mimics 1 and 2 fairly easily. Ooh, very nice room 1 of the gauntlet there too as well. Sniped 2 of those enemies with arrows. Yeah, BumRushBlitz's arrow bow game is on point today. And then he misses 2 shots in a row. Those are my fault. Oh, just misses with that second fire rod shot, but gets that red Zazax down. He does have the powder. Yeah, is opting to stop and grab this fairy. Do not blame him for playing it a little bit safe at that point. But as always, that does make this Landmo 2 fight just a little bit trickier. And gets those last 2 arrows in on the second cycle. And BumRushBlitz is through the hardest part of the gauntlet now, almost up to the 6th floor. Is a little bit low on magic, so we'll probably have to switch to the lamp for these torches. Gets that 4th one very nicely. And again, topping off the health there with the powder is in pretty good shape for these Aga 2 and Ganon fights. Second very quick Moldorm fight of the day, getting that slash and spin in with the Tempered Sword, not opening Moldorm's chest. And into the Aga 2 fight. We will see how BumRush does with his geometry quiz today. I think that was just one hit on the first cycle. Ooh, I think all 3 of those hit, but only 2 of them registered, just because they hit at the same time. Very nice double there. So, very nice Aga 2 fight, some parting hookshot attacks, and all that is left between him and claiming the victory here is the Ganon fight. So through the first phase there, using the hookshot strats to get those iframes through the fire bats. Getting a little bit low on health there, so is going to turn to that red potion just to be on the safe side. And into phase 3. Ganon Warp's not being particularly favorable today. And into phase 4, BumRushBlitz switches to those silver arrows. Was too close to that torch to hit it. And we'll have to see just one more cycle here. Ooh, dodges that fire bat. Breaks out the silver arrows one last time, dumps the 4th one into Ganon, and will finish off this seed. Get your GGs in chat. At least I assume that's what happened. My stream froze a little bit. I can give you some inside information here in the IRC chat. Skeeter, BumRushBlitz did done with an official SRL time of 1:47:53. So I think it's safe to assume that he did finish off that Ganon fight just after the stream froze a little bit there. And we did have a fairly quick forfeit after that from Skeeter. So we will see if either or both of our runners want to come in here and chat with us about that seed, but GG's to BumRushBlitz. So yes, thank you very much to the Fear Agent for putting that command in chat for us. Be sure to give these 2 runners a follow. They're out here putting out some great rando content for you. We will get to see BumRushBlitz's credits at least. So yeah, be sure to give them your support. I'm sure they would appreciate it. And also shout outs again to our tracker, Dark Diplomat, today. Thank you very much for keeping us on track with this seed as well. And yeah, thank you very much for your continued support here on Speed Gaming also. And we are joined in chat now by our winner in this race, BumRushBlitz. GG's.
GG, yeah. That was unfortunate that he forfeited. But I'll take a win, I guess.
Yeah, so Skeeter had some really unfortunate luck early on. He actually missed that Bombos in the pod big chest.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, he sort of got bodied by the Kadongos in the dark maze and took a death right before he got there and just decided it was not worth going back for just that one check.
Okay. Yeah, that'd do it. Having a double dip just for Bombos.
Yeah, and then it's just such a last location that you're ever gonna check if you do go back for that. So
right.
Yeah, so he was still short Bombos when he found that mirror. He did a full swamp clear. He just sort of had a rough time of it, unfortunately, after that. So but yeah, so talk to us about how you did in the seed. You executed that really well, especially near the beginning when the game just kept you on those low hearts for so long. How did you feel about that run overall?
I felt pretty good. I mean, I did die in Eastern. I had a stupid death with the in the back of Eastern, which, you know, it got me like not tilted, but a little like, oh boy, like I'm already behind. But for the most part, I did have to fight like quite a few bosses at low percent, and I felt pretty good about it. Having silvers helped for Helma for sure.
Yeah, that was definitely a tense fight for both of you. So nice job getting through that one. Yeah, I gave away a little insider information that I had recently seen you do 5-heart green mail Thieves Town, so I was not worried about the 4 hearts and blue mail. But
right.
Yeah, the only routing question I had was the Dark Death Mountain trip. When you found those mitts, you decided to flute away from that right then. Did you just get a feeling about Ice Palace since you just found the flippers as well, or?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I kind of forgot that I could do the Death Mountain stuff. It didn't really click. And after I found that, I'm like, oh, well, I can just go beat dungeons, because typically that's what I do, you know, ABCD, always be completing dungeons. So I kind of went one track and just went directly for dungeons.
Yeah, I mean, you never really complain when you're busy clearing crystal dungeons, so that never really hurts. So yeah, congrats again on the win. Thank you very much for giving our team our first 3 points.
Yeah, I'm excited that we got one now.
The first one is the hardest, so the
first is the hardest.
But yeah, any other final thoughts on the seed?
That was a pretty gross spot for the mirror. Like I at that point, I'm pretty sure I had last location did, except for the basement and Hera. I had checked every other location, so that was a pretty gross spot for that. But no, I think that's about it.
Yeah, well, great. Thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us. We're going to have to cut it a little bit short because we have another race coming up in just a few minutes. I'm not sure off the top of my head who that is going to be, but it will be some more great Link to the Past Randomizer League action.
Cool.
So yeah, that will just about do it for us here. Thanks again to our runners, Skeeter 573 on Twitch, and BumRushBlitz, who is BumRushBlitz Gaming on Twitch. And of course, shout outs to our tracker, Dark Diplomat, for pushing all the buttons in the background. And thank you all for watching and supporting us here on Speed Gaming. Keep your eyes here for some more great rando in the next few minutes. Thank you very much. Chirality is in chat there telling me this is Ricky of Kokiri versus Nabs in our next race coming up right here on this channel. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.